Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
This episode of Court Junkie is brought to you by Sabta.com, the smartest way to buy your next place. Sabta, SABTA.com.
Show us how angry you were and show us what happened, and let's just get this over with and move on.
Okay. So I got angry.
Yeah.
And I went boom.
What they do to you in there, it's a nightmare.
You can see that she would never harm a bone on anybody's body at all.
Hi, I'm Jillian, and you are listening to episode 1 of the Court Junkie podcast. You're probably wondering what this podcast is and what exactly I'm going to be talking about in it. So I will be covering everything from interesting court cases and trials to missing persons cases and unsolved crimes. Each episode will feature a different case where I'll be summarizing the case, playing snippets from the trials whenever possible, conducting interviews, and ultimately be letting you decide what to think. In this first episode, I'm going to focus on the Melissa Calusinski case. It's a terribly tragic case about the death of a toddler and the daycare worker who ended up being charged with his murder. I decided to cover this case because there have been some pretty big developments lately, which I'll get into a little bit later. And it's also a fascinating case that just might be a wrongful conviction. For those of you who don't know about this case, it takes place in January 2009 in Lake County, Illinois, about an hour north of Chicago in a suburb called Lincolnshire. Melissa Calusinski was 22 years old and working as a teacher's assistant at Minnie Subi in the Park Daycare Center in Lincolnshire. She had worked there for over a year and she seemed to really love it. In fact, she seemed to really love kids in general. She had done a lot of babysitting and worked for 4 years as a nanny for a family with 5 children. So when Melissa's sister got her the job working alongside her at the daycare center, Melissa jumped at the chance. There were never any complaints about Melissa at the daycare center or complaints about the daycare center itself. But as you'll see, that would soon change. At about 3:50 in the afternoon on January 14th, 2009, a 16-month-old boy named Benjamin Kingan became unresponsive at the daycare center while under Melissa's care. Melissa frantically called out to other staff members who performed CPR and called 911. Paramedics arrived and transported Ben to Condell Medical Center in Libertyville. His mother, Amy, was called, but by the time she and her husband got to the hospital, Ben had already passed away. He was pronounced dead at 4:50 p.m. Ben's family was obviously devastated. He and his twin sister Emily had been going to that daycare center since they were only 9 weeks old, and they had older siblings who had attended that very same daycare in the past. The detective on scene spoke with Melissa at the daycare center about what happened. Melissa told him that she noticed Ben appeared to be falling asleep in his bouncy chair, and when she called his name 3 times, he was unresponsive. She said she walked over to him and saw foam and blood coming from his nose and mouth. While Ben's family was preparing for his funeral, they got word that Ben's death likely wasn't an accident. Dr. Yupil Choi, the pathologist who performed the autopsy, said that Ben had suffered a skull fracture, and that it had likely occurred within the last day or so. 2 members of the Lake County Major Crimes Task Force, Police Chief George Falenko of the Round Lake Police Department and Detective Sean Curran of the Highland Park Police Department, were tasked with interviewing the daycare workers. They were told by the lead detective that a 16-month-old toddler had been found unresponsive at Mini Subi and had died at the hospital. They were then told that the autopsy revealed a skull fracture, that the injury had occurred within a 3-hour time span of the death, and that the severity of the injury was comparable to a fall from a 1 to 2-story building. Falenko and Curran seemed to immediately focus on Melissa, since she had been with Ben when he first became responsive, which makes sense, right? That's usually the way these investigations work. You start on the inside and you work your way out. During her interrogation, Melissa tells the officers that nothing out of the ordinary happened that day that could have resulted in Ben's death. She's adamant about it, in fact. Detective Curran tells Melissa that they're actually homicide detectives and that Ben died of a skull fracture. He told her that it's a quote-unquote medical certainty that someone had done this to Ben. Melissa starts to get very emotional. Here's some audio from her interrogation.
Swearing to you, I am not lying. I am swearing on my aunt's grave and my uncle's that I did not do anything to fracture his skull, and I did not see anything.
The officers start to apply more pressure, and Melissa continues to tell them that she is clueless about what could have caused Ben's fracture.
I'm still trying to even think how he even got the fracture. I'm still clueless.
Right.
I wish I could tell you. I have no idea.
That's the same question we're trying to get answered.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Right. Did you look up anything on your computer at home about injuries to children's heads, or if we
I didn't know anything.
Subpoena your record?
Yeah.
Would we be able to find out? Would we see anything about you researching anything about infant deaths or anything in the last couple days?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
The officers begin to give Melissa scenarios, trying to make her think that if she just fesses up to it being some sort of accident, this could all be over.
I am telling you the truth. I did not drop him. Anything, nothing serious.
Did you hit him in the head?
Nope.
Did you do anything to contribute to any of these marks on his head?
No.
Nothing?
I swear, nothing.
Okay.
Melissa continues to tell them that she has no idea how Ben could have hit his head. But eventually, after about 6 hours into the interrogation, she tells them that Ben may have hit his head while throwing a tantrum earlier in the day.
To be honest, I have yelled, said not nice, but he was sitting up and he just drops. And I heard him hit his head.
Where?
On the carpet, though. But
On the carpet or on the tile?
On the carpet.
Was that Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of times he's done that when we say, no, not nice. And he will get upset. He was sitting straight up and he would fall. He would, seriously, fall completely and hit his head.
And what, did he get upset after he hit his head?
Yeah.
He started crying?
Yeah.
Okay. We want to make sure that that's all that happened. Seriously, because if Gwendy tells us something contrary, because she saw this, right? Okay.
Yeah, when he threw himself down.
Okay.
And when he threw himself down from where?
And on the carpet.
Where was he?
When he threw himself down.
In the center of the room.
Was he
standing?
No, he was sitting up crisscross.
Sitting on the floor or on the chair?
Sitting on the floor.
And he flung himself back.
He flung himself back.
At this point, Falenko and Curran leave Melissa in the interrogation room alone for an hour and a half. When they come back, they continue to press her, telling her that her version of what happened, quote unquote, could not have happened. She then says she dropped him and he hit his head on the back of a chair.
Okay. And please don't make us drag everything out of you because it makes it seem like you're being deceitful to us.
When I took him out, I watched him. He was at the edge, and I heard his head hit the back of the table because I didn't fully put them down. It kind of almost like slipped when I dropped him, and he hit the chair.
The officers ask Melissa to get up and show them what happened using a teddy bear. They again leave her for a bit and then come back and press her some more. They tell her, all you need to do is tell us the truth and we're done.
I dropped him. I admit that.
How hard did you drop him? No, that's the big deal here. That's the big deal. How hard did you drop him?
I just let go of him.
How far up? I mean, this is a bad injury. This is a skull fracture. You're crossing the line now into intent. Now I'm going to have to start believing that you're completely covering up something that won't be molested. I don't know. All you need to do is tell us the truth, and we're done. We're not going anywhere until we get the facts here.
Okay.
Don't make me, please, don't make me call the state's attorney with all this garbage.
After 9 hours, Melissa finally tells them a new story. She says she was frustrated and threw him down really hard onto the floor.
Really hard?
Yeah.
Show us how hard you threw him on the ground.
I went like that.
Okay.
Just like,
Yeah.
because you just wanted him out of your arms.
Yeah.
Okay.
After Melissa gave this new version of what happened, she asked the officers how much longer she would be there because she wanted to go home and spend time with her parents and her puppy. Her interrogation lasted a total of 9+ hours. She denies any involvement or knowledge of what could have caused Ben's death more than 75 times total. But as you heard towards the end, she starts to cave, and the story about her throwing Ben to the ground emerges. After the interrogation with Folenko and Curran ended, Melissa was then taken in for booking, where she again repeated the last story about having thrown Ben down on the ground. She was arrested and charged with 14 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of aggravated battery of a child. She was held on $5 million bail. In November 2011, Melissa's 3-week trial began. Melissa told 48 Hours that she felt confident leading up to the trial and that the evidence her defense would present would set her free. Immediately after having been arrested, Melissa had recanted her confession, saying that she had felt pressured into confessing. She said she thought that if she had told them what they wanted to hear, they could all go home that day. She said she was looking forward to setting the record straight at her trial. In court, prosecutors presented their theory that Melissa killed Ben out of frustration and that she was overwhelmed. Prosecutor Kristen Bishop, who was seeking a 65-year prison term for Melissa, told the jury that Ben was a healthy, happy baby boy before Melissa threw him down. She forever altered the lives of so many people by ending the life of one, Prosecutor Bishop said at trial. The defendant is accountable for her actions that day in harming and killing Ben. Prosecutors told the jury that Ben's injuries were consistent with the final story Melissa told the officers in her interrogation, that she had thrown Ben to the ground. They said that during the interrogation, the officers would leave and go to the coroner with Melissa's story to see if what Melissa was telling them was true, and her initial explanations just didn't match the evidence. During Folenko's testimony, Melissa's interrogation tapes were played for the jury. Her second confession, while she was being booked, was also played. Dr. Choi testified for the state and said that he performed both an external and an internal examination of Ben. He said that Ben's injuries were caused by a hard, flat surface and that Ben died of craniocerebral injuries due to blunt trauma. Ben's pediatricians also testified, saying that Ben did not suffer a traumatic brain injury prior to January 14, 2009, and that he had no medical condition that had contributed to his death. At the end of their case, prosecutors played a home video of Ben running around and laughing, which they said proves that he was healthy right before the day he died. The defense argued that Ben suffered a serious injury prior to the day he died at the daycare. They presented evidence that 2.5 months before he died, workers at the daycare noticed a big bump on Ben's head. They pointed it out to Ben's mother, who showed it to his doctor 2 days later after Ben came down with a 103.5-degree fever. The doctor told her that there was nothing to worry about and to keep an eye on him for any change in mental status. But defense experts testified that after that day, there were signs of head trauma. One of Melissa's coworkers from the daycare center had told detectives in her interview that, quote-unquote, something was always up with Benjamin, and that he had been sleeping a lot lately. She said he would wake up from a nap at 2:30 and want to go back to sleep at 3:30. She said she thought that it was, quote-unquote, very odd about Ben. 2 days before he died, Ben threw up violently 5 times at the daycare. His mom had to come pick him up and kept him home the next day. The defense argued that these were all signs of a brain injury that had left him susceptible to further damage if he had hit his head again. Prosecutors had argued that Ben throwing up had been due to a stomach bug, that the day he vomited at the daycare, he went home, threw up a few more times, was given some Pedialyte, put to bed, and was fine the next day. The defense argued that Ben's injuries were actually inconsistent with the final story that Melissa had given to detectives. Melissa did not testify at trial. The jury, which consisted of 8 women and 4 men, deliberated for 7 hours before finding Melissa guilty of first-degree murder and aggravated battery. At her sentencing, Melissa maintained her innocence. She said, "I want everyone to know I am innocent of this crime. I did not abuse or hurt him in any way. I will never stop fighting this, and I will always maintain my innocence. My statements were false, but I had no choice to admit those things. I was so scared, I did not understand what the detectives were telling me to say." Ben's mom also spoke at Melissa's sentencing. She said, "Because of Melissa's actions, our children have been forever affected. Our dinner conversations often revolve around Ben and his death. The kids wonder if their teachers at school are going to kill them." The judge, Lake County Circuit Judge Daniel Shanes, sentenced Melissa to 31 years in prison after saying, "What happened in this case is a civilized society's nightmare. This case is a true tragedy." Melissa's family has maintained her innocence, along with Melissa herself. They've given numerous interviews to local news stations saying that Melissa would never do this, that she just wasn't capable of hurting anybody. So just who is Melissa Calusinski? Melissa graduated from Barrington High School in 2005 and attended college for 3 months. At the time of Ben's death, she was 22 years old, living with her parents, but sometimes staying at her boyfriend's house. Prior to working at Mini Subi, she worked in retail, in food service, at her parents' bait shop, and as a nanny. She worked as a teacher's assistant at the Mini Subi location in Arlington Heights for about a year, and then she transferred to the Lincolnshire location in 2008. She had no criminal history. Dr. Robert Hanlon, a clinical neuropsychologist, testified during Melissa's trial and said that Melissa's overall IQ score was 82. Her verbal IQ was 74, which is in the borderline range, but not mentally retarded. Melissa, like many of us back then, had a MySpace page, and in her bio section, she had written about her job at Mini Subi. "I love it there," she wrote. "I love kids a lot. I babysit for 5 boys. They're like my little brothers, LOL." Melissa filed an appeal based on a few issues. One, that the evidence was insufficient to prove her guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. 2, that the trial court had erred in denying her motion to suppress her statements to the police. 3, that her trial counsel was ineffective for failing to submit a jury instruction defining the term reckless. And 4, that the trial court abused its discretion in allowing rebuttal testimony by the state's expert witness. In 2011 and again in 2012, Judge Shaines rejected Melissa's request for a new trial, and in February 2014, the Appellate Court of Illinois denied her appeal. Yet another setback came in October 2014, when the Illinois Supreme Court ruled that it would not review Melissa's appeal petition and that it would refer to the 2nd District Appellate Court ruling that upheld her conviction. But just when you thought the case was closed and that Melissa had exhausted all of her options.
New at 10, a push to free a woman convicted in the death of a baby at a Lincolnshire daycare. Ben Kingan died after collapsing at the daycare. One daycare worker is now convicted in his death. But a mysterious phone call has brought new attention to this case.
A mysterious phone call. It almost sounds like something out of a movie, right? In June 2015, Melissa's defense attorney, Kathleen Zellner, who you may have heard of from the Ryan Ferguson or Stephen Avery cases, filed a 211-page request asking the trial judge to throw out the conviction based on new evidence. She said Melissa was convicted based on irrefutably false medical evidence offered by the state's testifying experts, and that newly discovered x-rays give a clearer view of what happened than those provided to the defense at trial. The filing noted that Melissa's father, Paul, received an anonymous phone call from a man who told him that there were x-rays of Ben that didn't make it into trial. By that time, there was a different coroner in Lake County, Dr. Thomas Rudd, who is still the coroner there today. And if you're familiar with the Lieutenant Joe Glinowitz case, then you may even recognize that name too. Dr. Rudd looked into the tip and sure enough found x-rays in Ben's file that contradicted the trial testimony from Dr. Choi. The newly found x-rays showed no evidence of a skull fracture. In fact, Dr. Rudd said the x-rays showed an abnormally shaped head, which is indicative of an old injury. After Dr. Rudd saw the x-ray images, he submitted an affidavit to Melissa's defense team and changed Ben Kingan's manner of death from homicide to undetermined, saying that it was, quote-unquote, impossible to conclude that the final head injury was intentionally inflicted. Also in Attorney Zellner's filing was an affidavit from Dr. Choi, the original coroner who performed Ben's autopsy, saying that he had missed a previous brain injury that Ben had suffered. Now, I should also point out that Dr. Choi later said his opinion that Ben died as a result of a violent catastrophic blunt force trauma has not changed. Lake County prosecutors then filed a 37-page motion to dismiss Attorney Zellner's request, saying that the x-ray evidence was old evidence. But in June 2016, Melissa scored a huge victory. Melissa was granted a new hearing to determine whether or not she deserves a new trial. According to the judge's ruling, it would not be responsible to move forward without allowing both the prosecutors and Melissa's lawyers to call witnesses to determine if the evidence in question is new and whether a new trial for Melissa is warranted. The state's attorney's office said it would welcome the hearing because it gives prosecutors the first chance to formally respond to the new claims by Melissa's attorneys. They said, "We look forward to having a full and fair hearing. We believe that the evidence will clearly show that the defendant's claims are without merit and will again confirm that she is guilty of the murder of a child." Melissa's hearing is set to take place on August 18th. It's expected to last about 2 days and then be continued to September 16th for the additional testimony of one witness as well as the final ruling. If Judge Shaines sides with Melissa, her murder conviction would be vacated and a new trial would be set. If the request is denied, she would have the option to appeal the ruling to the state appellate court. Either way, these hearings are truly another shot at freedom, and there's arguably no better attorney to have by your side for something like this, in my opinion anyway, than Kathleen Zellner. So there's one more thing that I want to talk about that also works in Melissa's favor, and that's the area where this has all taken place, in Lake County, Illinois. You see, Lake County hasn't exactly had the best reputation for these kinds of investigations. As of this recording, there have been 6 people since 2010 who have had their cases dropped in Lake County due to wrongful convictions. Jason Strong is one of them. Jason spent more than 15 years of a 46-year sentence in prison for murder before being released last year. And why was he released? Because new pathologist reports undermined law enforcement accounts of the murder, specifically when the victim died as well as the nature of her wounds. Sounds kind of familiar, huh? The wrongful convictions issues in Lake County are a hot topic for those running for local office. In 2012, the newly elected state's attorney, Michael Nurheim, said he would work to address the wrongful convictions in Lake County. He started a wrongful convictions review panel in 2013, which is partly responsible for some of the wrongful convictions being overturned. And just last year, Lake County Sheriff Mark Curran said he would run against Nurheim for state's attorney, in part because of all of the wrongful convictions. In an interview with CBS News, Sheriff Curran told reporter Brad Edwards that he was aware of Melissa's case.
I watched the stories on Channel 2 News. I watched the 48 Hours piece. Do I have great questions regarding her guilt? Absolutely.
Hopefully he's looked into it a little bit more than just watching the news in the 48 Hours piece, but at least he's somewhat of an advocate for Melissa. Sheriff Curran dropped out of the race shortly after that interview, however, saying that he discussed some of his concerns with Nurheim and that they were now on the same page. Whether they spoke about Melissa's case remains to be seen. I'll be attending Melissa's hearings next week, and I'll be adding another episode reporting on what happened, so make sure to subscribe. A special thanks goes out to Sabta.com, the smartest way to buy your next place. Sabta, SABTA.com. And that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening to the Court Junkie podcast. Please visit courtjunkie.com for some more news on court cases and missing people. If you have any feedback about the podcast, go to courtjunkie.com/podcast and let me know what you think. If you liked it, please be sure to subscribe. Thanks.